to evacuate. The conflict has now entered its fifth day. Dr. Emmanuel Navon is joining us live, international relations lecturer at Tel Aviv University and fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Let me first ask you, I hope you're well and your family is well. What is the situation currently in Tel Aviv? The conflict has entered its fifth day.
Yes, first of all, the capital of Israel is not Tel Aviv, it's Jerusalem. And the morale here in Israel is very high. Israelis are united. This is an existential war. It is basically our second war of independence. And we are facing a theocracy that has been planning our destruction for over 40 years. And now finally we are facing it and winning this war. We're not there yet. Fortunately, Israel now has gained control of the Iranian airspace, and we will win this war and emerge from it much stronger and reshape the Middle East, and that's the purpose, and it will happen.
Tel Aviv was the first capital of Israel, but of course it's now been the city that the Iranians have been targeting along with Haifa and other cities for the last few days. How significant has been the damage through these strikes that the Iranians have been doing in the past few days, Dr. Navon?
So first of all, the Iranians are intentionally targeting civilians. And that, of course, is one of the big differences between Israel and Iran, that Israel targets military targets and military officers, army officers and military targets, but the Iranians target civilian areas with the intentional purpose of killing as many civilians as possible, which is why some of their missiles, most of them, of course, have been intercepted by Israel's defense system, but it is not 100% proof. And therefore, unfortunately, we've had over 10 casualties of civilians killed in their homes by missiles that reached their homes and that hit their buildings. So our defense system is very efficient, but unfortunately, it's not 100% proof.
Yes, Dr. Navon, also, as far as this conflict is concerned, do you see things only escalating currently, looking at the fact that Iran has so far refused to budge on its nuclear program and is not actually entering any sort of negotiations just yet, be it via the US or any other route? Do you only see this conflict then increasing and escalating with each passing day?
No, the very opposite. The more Israel wins, the less the conflict is escalating. Iran, thankfully, no longer has the ability of escalating because its military capabilities are being depleted by Israel. And therefore, the more Israel wins against Iran, the more the conflict will de-escalate. And therefore, Israel has to continue that war and win it. And Iran will be denied its nuclear capability the same way, by the way, that Israel denied nuclear capability from Iraq after bombing in 1981 the Osirak nuclear plant in Iraq, and after bombing in 2007 the nuclear plant built by North Korea in Syria. So in the case of Iran, it's much more complex, of course, because Iran has been working on its nuclear program for over 40 years, and it's spread out in a very large country.
Now, Iran, though, has criticized this latest strike by your military on what they say is an attack on the media, on the strike on the Iran TV broadcaster that happened during a live broadcast where an anchor was reading the news and suddenly there was a strike. How do you react to that charge?
This was a legitimate military target because Iran is not a free country. Iran is a theocracy, and this so-called national broadcaster is part of the army's propaganda machine and communication machine for the Iranian military. And precisely because Iran is a dictatorship and a theocracy, its national broadcaster is a legitimate military target that was used for military purposes and that has now been thankfully incapacitated.
Now, the G7 summit, of course, is taking place in Canada as we speak. Donald Trump, the US president, has left that summit early. There's a security meeting that has been called for which he's left. He's going to be going to the Situation Room as well, we believe. How do you view this development? Donald Trump leaving early and the correlations that it has something to do with the Iran-Israel conflict and what's coming next?
Well, we'll find out. But obviously, the fact that he left seems to indicate that the United States might get more involved in that war. Of course, for example, we all know there is the nuclear plant of Fordo, which requires a very, very heavy and sophisticated bombs, which the U.S. Army owns. So we'll see. I think Israel has been able to defend itself by itself. But if the United States wants to join and make sure that Iran no longer constitute a threat not only to Israel but to the Middle East and the free world, of course the U.S. is welcome too. But that's a decision of the U.S. president.
Yes. Now, the G7 has also issued a statement, of course, where they have said that that Israel has the right to defend itself, the right to protect its people, and Iran is the aggressor in this particular instance, and it should not have a nuclear weapon. How do you view that statement? And also, they have, of course, hope for de-escalation and a ceasefire soon. So how close are we to that, or how far are we to that?
Well, first of all, Israel does not need the approval or permission of anyone to defend itself. Every country, of course, has a right to defend itself. As regarding the final statement of the G7, those statements are always a compromise between different points of view. So on the one hand, it says that Iran shouldn't have a nuclear weapon, but on the other hand, there should be a ceasefire and de-escalation. Again, if Iran will not be denied its way to nuclear weapons without its infrastructure being destroyed, that's a fact. Negotiations have failed, diplomacy has failed because the Iranians have been manipulating the great powers. They have lied to the International Energy Agency, and therefore they cannot be trusted. They claim that their nuclear program is only for civilian purposes. That is a lie, and therefore to call for diplomacy is pure hypocrisy. Only the military operation taking place now will deny Iran access to nuclear weapons. So it's very kind of the G7 to recognize Israel's right to defend itself. We don't need that recognition. And if the great powers want to help, they should simply support Israel's military effort instead of calling for the so-called de-escalation, when again, the only de-escalation is when Iran is denied military nuclear capability.
All right, let's leave it at that. Dr. Emmanuel Navon, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on that story.